Welcome back to the knotenkopp podcast, where I talk all about my knitting. My name is Johanna, and yes, welcome back. It's been a while, like always. I think this is my regular uploading schedule now, or welcome if you're new on here. Yes, it's been nearly 3 months, 4 months, I don't know. I've lost a feeling for time. Basically, I think my last episode I filmed in February, and yes, I was announcing that I was going to have a surgery and wouldn't know exactly when I am back with my knitting podcast. And the surgery didn't happen. It was scheduled, but they had to postpone it because of medical reasons. They didn't feel comfortable operating on me. But I was ordered to, how do you say, like, relax, basically, which is an equivalent for knitting for me. And so I stayed 2 months at my dad's place in a different city, like close to Hamburg. And was basically on sick leave, didn't work, did knit a lot, and had to go to the hospital every week to get my blood checked and see if they can operate now. And after a month they thought they can operate, so they tried again, and it was postponed again, but without a specific date in mind. Like, they don't know when they are able to do that because they feel like the risks are too high at the moment. So yeah, basically I spent 2 months, the whole of March and April, knitting and buying a lot of yarn, because the time was kind of weird, because at the same time, like, I was really frustrated with the whole like medical situation, and I was like, all my plans were relying to have that surgery, so that was really annoying. And going to the hospital every week was also really annoying. But at the same time, I obviously had a lot of knitting time. I had a great time with friends, because most of my friends live still in Hamburg, and so that was really lovely. Like, I haven't had so much social time in a while. And also, I went to my first knitting group, which was amazing. A friend of mine is organizing that in Hamburg at Superbude, Hamburg. They have like 3 different locations, and they rotate them, and it's every 2 weeks, and it was lovely. Like, I've been, I think, 3 times now, and I'm planning on going next week again. And yeah, I don't know, I haven't laughed so much in an evening for a really long time. And it was really nice for the first time for me, like meeting like people I didn't know and connecting over knitting. And I mean, that's the general concept behind a knitting group or knitting meetup. But yeah, it was really lovely, and I'm really looking forward to going again, because I have regular doctor's appointments in Hamburg now, so I have a good excuse to stay a little bit longer. And I'm still on sick leave, so I actually don't know when I will be able to go back to work. It's all very unsure and frustrating, but I'm trying to see the positive and focus on the knitting. With all of the hospital and doctor's appointments came another thing. I try to make them as nice as possible for me. So I try to combine, like, oh, I have to go to the hospital today. Okay, I can like do this after that, or meet that friend for coffee and stuff like that. And I always had to pass the train station where one of my favorite yarn stores is, Miley's, I guess, in Hamburg, at Sternschanze. The underground station is like the closest. And yeah, so I stopped many times at that yarn store and other yarn stores. I also went to Idee a few times, Hobby in Hamburger Meile, it's like a shopping center, and I also went for the first time to Hamburger Wollfabrik, which was really an interesting store. But yeah, I went like every week to Miley's at some point, and they recognized me, and my friend was like, at some point you should be like sponsored by them. I was like, I don't think I do much advertising for them, even though I love the store, but yeah, it was fun to go. But yeah, as you could imagine, I also purchased a lot of yarn. I think some were due to I packed only yarn for 2 weeks because I thought like I would have the surgery and go back home after 2 weeks. That didn't happen. Therefore, after 2 weeks, I went home to my place and watered all my plants and gave my key to a friend so she could water them for the following 6 weeks. And I packed like some yarn to finish some of my projects, but obviously I didn't bring all of my stash. And so I had like in my mind an excuse to buy a lot of yarn. And I am very happy about all my purchases, but it was at some point scared might be too much, but I got a little bit worried because I think it was for the first time that I have like a very huge budget for yarn and are not like a poor student anymore and could just buy yarn without like worrying about what it would do to my bank account. And I think it got kind of out of hand. Like I said, I think all of my purchases are reasonable. Most of them all have a project, and I'm very happy to have them. And with a lot of yarn I already started knitting and finished projects, but it also like showed me like there is kind of no limit. Like there is no limit to what I want to buy. Like if I don't put like a financial or like amount of yarn limit to it, I will just continue buying yarn. And I mean, I kind of had also the excuse that like where I live, there's not a real yarn store, and with Hamburg around the corner, there was like a lot of yarn store opportunity. And I have to say I went a lot of times also in yarn stores and didn't buy any yarn. So I was very proud of myself, but I also bought all in all a lot of yarn. So that's also the reason why I will distribute all the acquisitions over the following podcast episodes, because I can talk only like over an hour just about all the things I purchased. And I think that's also not very interesting to see. And I think I will just talk about them when I will get to knitting with them and my plans get a little bit more specific. Generally, I think I found at least one YouTube video about the Hamburger Wollfabrik in German. I will try to find one in English as well and link them down below if you're interested. So basically it's like a yarn, not a real store, more in Germany you would say Lager, and it's also in this industrial area, but like it only takes like, I don't know, 15-20 minutes by bus from Hamburg Central Station. So if you are in the city for a day or weekend or something, it's definitely something you can do. And it's like, I don't know exactly what their concept is. There wasn't much information on their website, but they sell basically yarn on really big cones, and they are really thinly plied, and you can just basically ply spool up your own yarn. So you can combine like different fibers, you can combine different colors, etc. Because like the yarn that comes mostly on these cones is too thin to hand knit with, so you need to ply it thicker. You can also ply like several plies of or threads of one color, but it's really cool. You can like make your perfect yarn yourself, and their selection is quite overwhelming, so you definitely need to take your time there, and maybe also know some specs about your knitting. I would say they are definitely able to help, like the staff that works there, but you kind of need to know how much meterage you need for your project that you're planning with your yarn. We will get to that later, because I made a mistake there, because they like, you get the meterage and they recommend a needle size, but you don't get like a gauge, and so it's like, yeah, they don't sell to the regular hand knitter, I would say. And I would also say you need to be a little bit more experienced. If you are a crocheter, it's also very great, because they have a lot of like cotton-based yarns, which are great for crocheting, which are very, very cheap. Like generally, like the prices are cheaper than in comparison to your regular yarn store, I would say, even in comparison to maybe Drops, which is basically the cheapest yarn I know. So yeah, it's a different concept, and I really like it. Obviously, we all love the cones. You can see on my shelf back there that I have put up some of the cones there, and I really enjoy knitting from them. And yeah, so if you have the time and are interested, check them out. They also have like a great needle selection, and the only thing is you have to purchase at least 200 grams from a color, I think, because yeah, that's like their minimum selling point. And I bought not enough yarn from one color, and now I have to over purchase yarn, but we will get to that later. So yeah, I mean, it's been 3 months, nearly 2 months, 3 months, I don't know exactly. And obviously that means a lot of finished objects, because I had a lot of knitting time. And I also started and frogged a lot of stuff, so that you won't even see. But I would say let's get into finished objects. So, what was my first? The thing I'm wearing. I'm already getting confused. This is my finished striped overload polo by Spektakelstrik. It's the second time I've knit this. The first one was a gift knit. This one is knit in the rerum natura Cyrano in the colors Poivre et Sel, which is like this gray beige, and the dark red is called Audepine, and I am in love with this. I will insert pictures of me wearing it. I went outside yesterday and took pictures of some of my finished objects, because I am so behind on my Instagram feed with posting my finished objects. I think I will never catch up, but I'm trying to like take nice pictures and post them on there, because I am very proud of my finished knits and I want to show them off, but it just takes some effort to take nice pictures, especially when you have to take them off yourself. So I really like this. It's the one and only Raglan sweater I really like on myself. And yeah, it has like this polo collar thing, is a Raglan construction, has kind of wide sleeves, and I kind of made it cropped, like it, I don't know, my belly button is here, so it is not that cropped, but it ends kind of with my where your hip dips, where what's my favorite kind of point for my sweaters to sit. I could have made it a little bit longer, but I wasn't sure. And the thing I was worried a little bit in my last episode is the drape, but I think it folds beautifully. I think I needed a little bit to get used to it, because it fits definitely differently than in comparison to my drop shoulder patterns. Like, you have that excess fabric, but I think it's all right with this. And let me put my pillow back. And so yeah, I think it sits great, and I've worn it a lot of times in March and April, so it has a very different feeling to the first one which I knit, which was in the recommended yarn of a Peruvian Highland wool held with a silk mohair, and this one is just knit with worsted Aran weight merino, and it does peel. And also my depeeler, I had two and both broke, so I need to order a new one. I haven't depeeled it. The only thing, I think you can see it a little bit, I think I sewed in one of the ends a little bit weird, so it kind of bumps up this like stripe, but in general I'm very happy with how it turned up. And now I have my circusy red and beige striped sweater. It also looks very great with my red hat. It kind of gives a little bit Where's Wally, I think it's called in English, in German Wo's Walter vibes, so like a comic cartoon character, which I love. Like I'm totally here for it. So yeah, if you want to know more about like the knitting experience, go back and watch my 2 last podcast episodes. The next thing I finished is my waffle loop bandana scarf. It is by Otherloops in this bright green color. This is yarn I purchased over the last 2 months. It is the Merino 160 by, at least I think so, by Austermann, which is I think one of the big German brands like Schachenmeier or Lana Grossa. I'm not 100% sure, I didn't look them up, but it's like one of these like yarns that you can also find in like the knitting departments of department stores here in Germany. And yeah, so that's like the back side, which is also really pretty. And then you have like these like horizontal lines to create that waffle texture on that side. I will just put it on. I mean, it's a little bit too much going on with also the collar, but this is basically how I wear it. Also the other way around, because I also figured that my throat and my thyroid are very sensible because of it being so inflamed and big, and so it had been a great accessories. And I held the merino with the fitting silk mohair by Austermann in the same colorway. Always leave the colors here and also in the description box. And I could imagine knitting this again. I actually had to frog it once because I didn't have a scale when I knitted this, and I thought I used half of it because I used this trick that you can see in a round ball of yarn when you arrived at half of it, but it actually didn't work. I had like so much still left, so I ripped it back and knit it again. And yeah, it's a lovely pattern, and it's like one of like these mini scarves that I personally enjoy knitting more than like the Sophie scarf. And also I think they are like visually more interesting. Not only like the knitting process is more entertaining, but also like I think the design is a little bit more elevated than just a plain garter stitch long scarf. But that's just a question of what you like or what you prefer. But I'm very happy, and I also totally fell in love with this color. I mentioned in my knitting plans that I would consider knitting a very green, like a true grassy green sweater this year, and I picked up yarn for that. So that's my mini scarf. The second thing I finished is the storm sweater by PetiteKnit in Gynt. This is all I have left, so it's like this light gray heathered color. I will insert pictures because it was a gift knit and I gifted it last weekend to my friend for her 30th birthday, It fits amazing. I was very proud of myself again for making it fit so great. So I was unsure if I want to knit like the sweater in this color. I knew I wanted to use Gynt because it was one of the yarns I still wanted to try out and haven't used before. And I could only imagine like this light gray color for her, but it's a heathered color, so which I prefer in natural colors. But Marlene from Marlene Knits, she knitted also the storm sweater in the same color, and she announced that before I ordered the yarn, and through the YouTube video you could barely see the pattern, which is like the special thing about the storm sweater, and I was a little bit worried. And I would say it's like a 50-50 thing. I mean, in the end I decided to knit it in this color, but I think if you use a solid color, the texture comes off better, but you can still see it. Like, it's not that it like disappears. I think it's more like picture video kind of problem. And generally I enjoyed knitting that sweater a lot. It was a lot of fun. It's also, I would say, like the easier version to the Guernsey Genser or Ingrid sweater. I didn't knit the Ingrid sweater, but it has very similar panels in comparison to the Guernsey Genser by Sandnes Garn, which I knit last year. Yeah, because you don't do cables or something, you just knit for the storm sweater pearls and knit stitches, which is really enjoyable and really entertaining. Also, like at the point where you join under the arms, it's yeah, you can basically remember what you have to do. Like, you don't need to look at the charts. I think other podcasters mentioned in the past that there are some issues with the pattern. I think I only noticed that at least the German version has the charts wrongly labeled, but there might have been other mistakes, but nothing that if you understand generally the construction and the pattern, you can fix on your own. And yeah, I enjoyed knitting that a lot. It's a great pattern. It's also great for, I think, beginner textured knitting people. So yeah, highly recommend that. I would even consider knitting that for myself sometimes in the future, but not in this yarn. I had very high expectations for Gynt. So it is a yarn by Sandnes Garn. I think it's also very popular. It is maybe their only kind of sustainable yarn. I think it's not like labeled with anything like sustainable label, but it is 100% Norwegian wool, and Sandnes Garn is a Norwegian yarn brand. So, and most of their other yarns are merino based, and since 96% of all merino is produced in New Zealand and Australia, it's obviously shipped to Norway, where it might be spun in their mill. I guess they have their own mill in Norway. I'm not 100% sure. But since this doesn't have the transportation way, that's, for me at least, a more sustainable yarn. And also it yeah, improves and strengthens the sheep farming culture in Norway, because the Scandinavian countries have a lot of sheep as well. So why not use the yarn you have locally around where you produce the yarn? And so I think it's a great concept to have at least one Norwegian yarn in their collection. But I didn't enjoy knitting with it at all. I think the color selection is amazing, and I think that's one of the reasons to go for that yarn generally with Sandnes Garn. But I've heard a lot of podcasters say that it's, first of all, an affordable yarn, and second of all, it's a rustic yarn that you can still like, that is still tolerable, that people can still tolerate it even though they don't knit that much with rustic yarn. I wouldn't agree with both of them. Like, I paid 83 euros for the storm sweater just the yarn, for a size extra small. So knitting that storm sweater in my size would be probably €100, because I think in Germany at least they are sold for around €6 a ball. And since they only have like 50 grams, 91 meters, it adds up. And it is one heavy sweater, you have to say. It's like, for size extra small, I needed 700 grams, which is a very heavy sweater, which is okay because it has the purpose of being like a heavy winter sweater. But yeah, it's a heavy sweater. So, and €83 for an extra small is, for my budget, it's not a cheap sweater. I think it's okay. So I pay generally between like 50 and €100 for a full sweater. But I would say like €60 would have been an affordable sweater in that size. And yeah, €80 I wouldn't consider affordable yarn, but I guess it is depends on what you compare it to, what other yarns you buy usually. So, and the other thing is, like, I think this is definitely feels a little bit rustic. I wasn't sure if my friend was able to tolerate it, but she said it's fine. Otherwise, I would have just used a different yarn in the inside of the collar. So that's like generally the only place a thick sweater will touch your skin. And but even though this has a little bit of rustic touch, it also is very slippery, and it feels very, like, for me, even like plasticky coated, like a superwash yarn. And I tried even knitting with metal needles, because I got new metal needles, and it was, I wasn't able to knit with metal needles on this, because the stitches were just flying off that needle, like not in a positive way. They were like slipping. And that's also the reason why I don't like touching it that much. And I find it quite interesting, because like if I compare it to Hjeltholt Urspinnerie gas garn, or the like wool from the German brand Wanderschäferei, Paula und Konsorten. So I think they are all very similar natural Havard gray tones, and also a different yarn weight and stuff. But these two, like, this is softer because it is a merino breed. It's like not a merino, but it's like a merino Landschafe, so it's like a German mixed breed of merino and other sheep, which makes them more tolerable, or they can live in the German climate because it's not that warm here. And so I think this is actually softer. This is more rustic, but still doesn't have like that weirdly coated feeling. And I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know enough about yarn production, what they do to the yarn, why it feels that way. But what I find interesting, I felt the same way about the Peruvian Highland wool by Filcolana, which is often compared to this. Like, the Peruvian Highland wool is way softer. It's nowhere near rustic, but it also had like that slippery coated feeling to me, which I also didn't enjoy. And I think a lot of people, for example, for the Celeste sweater, use them interchangeably because they have the same weight. And I find it interesting that I don't like both yarns, even though they are loved by a lot of people, which I find sad, because I would like to like this yarn. But yeah, and I'm glad I only have like, I don't know, 10 grams left, and I ordered like 700 grams, which was a little bit less than the recommended yarn for extra small. I think it said like somewhere in between, but yeah, but still it worked out. And I actually knitted the whole sweater to the exact measurements of the sample PetiteKnit wears in the sample picture. So I did the same repeats of panels on the sleeves and on the body, and also did like the ribbing, the exact measurements. And yeah, it worked great. So that's that. I will throw it down at the floor. The next finished object are a very fun pair of socks. That was a spontaneous cast on of purchases I did over the last 2 months. So I call them the Freibad Pommes Socken. So I don't know, it doesn't really translate well into English, but it's kind of like outdoor pool fries socks, or in British English, Lido or Lido chips socks. So because it just reminds me, like this reminds me a lot of like ketchup and fries or chips, and this is like the pool, like the water in an outdoor pool, and it just reminds me, it's like at least in Germany it's a thing, I don't know if it's also a thing in other countries, that you always have like these small stores in outdoor pools where you can get ice cream and also fries. And yeah, so they are an ode to that. And I did 3x1 rib for the main sock, 1x1 rib for the cuff, and contrast heel and contrast toe. The yarns I used are these ones. So the main color is Mondim by Retrosaria Pomar in this like yellow white variegated yarn, and I still have a lot left over, as you can see. I knitted the main sock on 2mm needles because I was a little bit worried, because I heard from a lot of people that this yarn doesn't wear well. I think the opinions are very divided. Some people had also very good experience with it, but it is a very thin sock yarn, I have to say. Like if you look at it, it is very thin, and for something that doesn't have any nylon or polyamide or silk or any like strengthening thread in it, it is not surprising that it doesn't hold up well. The red is a red merino from also Austermann, and oh, I just realized that thread got pulled. But yeah, I didn't want to use it for the heel because it is a fine merino, it is not a sock wool, so I wasn't really sure how that is worn either, and therefore I knitted that on a really tight gauge for the toe as well, so it will hold up over the time. And the heel is also an interesting concept because I mainly used Sunday by Sandnes Garn in this very, very beautiful blue. I think it's called regatta blue, and or bleu probably. But I held it with for the heel with a thread of just cotton thread that you use for sewing, probably to maybe strengthen it. I don't know if it helps at all, but I thought it probably doesn't work, like make it worse. And because this is obviously also not a sock wool. And but what I found interesting, the colors. This is the famous poppy blue by Knitting for Olive, and I think they are very similar colors, but you can see that this one is a little bit lighter and more, yeah, poppy, or yeah, a little bit cooler even, and this is more of that, for me at least, that poppy blue, like the color, not of like the poppy, the flower, but the cornflower blue, which is this called in Danish. So yeah, really interesting, but I think you could use them as dupes. So if you aren't able to get one of them, you could use the other one because they are very similar. They have just a slight difference in color, but yeah, they fit great. I love them. They are a lot of fun, and yeah, nothing else to say about these socks. I also finished another hot water bottle cover for a colleague of mine who stopped working at my workplace and moved away, so I made her one reminiscent of where we live. Like, it's like a blue-green one with which represent the dikes and the sea and the sky, and you have like one side 2 little sheep grazing on there, on the other side you have like a bike rider, because she rides a lot her bike, and yeah, it's very cute. Also, I used for the first time, I'm not sure if it's Jamieson of Shetland or just Shetland yarn for the main colors, and I'm so in love with this yarn. I mean, I knew the color selection was beautiful, the heathering of these colors is always amazing, but also the touch to them, it's like the perfect mix of rustic, but that gets really buttery when knitting with it, and I think over time it will get very soft. I mean, not merino soft, but like, I don't know, I can't even like describe it. I was amazed by that yarn, so I bought some more for hot water bottle cover for myself, but that's like far in the future, I guess. But yeah, so a little hot water bottle cover. I mean, is this still the Knotenkopf podcast when I don't do a hot water bottle cover in it? The next one is a difficult one. It's my Norma sweater, which I also started and finished while I wasn't podcasting. And this is the one and only time you will see it. This is how it looks finished. This is a close-up of the colors, because it doesn't fit and I'm going to frog it. I think I will do a frogging vlog in the close future or near future, because I have some other older FOs which I'm going to frog, and I'm going to reuse that yarn, because even though it's obviously a very beautiful sweater and I'm very sad to frog it, but it's also a quite expensive sweater. It's like, I think the materials cost me 100 euros. So if it doesn't fit me, there is no purpose of keeping the yarn in that sweater form. I will brush like shortly over it. The yarns I used are very woolly and made a very dense woolly fabric, which I love. Like, the main color is Jensen by Isager, and the colorwork colors are all Isager Tweed but held double, and the Jensen, the white, is also held with a lace merino, and that created a very dense woolly fabric. I was on gauge. The sweater is intended for a very open gauge, and when I saw that, I don't like that kind of open gauge. It's knit on 5mm needles with the tweed, the Isager Tweed, held with a silk mohair, which it creates a similar fabric like the Lento sweater or something. And that's not my cup of tea. So I knitted this on a 3.5mm needle holding very woolly wools. And this made the fabric the opposite of drapey, so kind of very stiff and woolly, dense, and therefore this part, like the raglan yoke, doesn't fall as it's supposed to be. The other thing is, I already went down bust measurement wise. This has a lot of less positive ease than I'm used to. I think it only has like 12 centimeters of positive ease, but the raglan is quite deep, and it's definitely deeper than this one. And but this is actually something you can see on the model in the picture as well. So it's a very oversized and deep raglan construction, and I think generally in the combination with the changed fabric, it has a lot of extra fabric around here, which just looks weird. And it's not that the sweater isn't pretty or anything, but it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't look great, and when I wear it, I just try to push the fabric away all the time, and I don't feel comfortable in it. So I decided, like, I wore it once. I asked my girlfriends, like, is this only in my mind that this doesn't fit, or is it actually an issue? And they said, like, no, it doesn't do anything for you. And that was the end of the story. So I'm repurposing the yarn. The thing is, the way the sweater is constructed with the gauge and the pattern instructions, I don't feel comfortable modifying it to make me fit. So, and also, like, since it's a raglan, I would need to frog everything until like somewhere here. It is not an easy fix, so I am just gonna knit something else with the yarn. So that's that, and I will talk more about like my general thoughts on raglan constructions in that upcoming frogging vlog, where I will also frog this beautiful yarn. The last finished object is this really funny looking pillow. It was a whip last time. It is just a scrappy project, also with a very improvised back cover or like closing function. I didn't block this, so that's why this looks kind of weird, but actually the buttons I found in my stash were like perfect for this kind of pillow. I really like it. Like, it's a little bit kids room vibe, but I don't mind it. And yeah, if I one day don't want it, I will just gift it to a child. And I'm glad I'm using up some of my stash yarn. So that's all my finished objects. That were a lot. I actually have my peacock tee blocking on the ground, but since it's still blocking, I will talk about it in my next podcast episode. My whips. So, like I said, I started knitting with a lot of new yarn. One of the things I started and haven't finished yet is a cashmere sweater. So I wanted a dark navy, kind of for me fitted sweater in cashmere for a while, but obviously cashmere yarns is hell of expensive, and I am not willing to spend 200 euros on a sweater. That's way out of my comfort zone. And then I went to Hamburger Wollfabrik, and they actually have a lot of like mixed cashmere yarns, which are great. Like, if you want to try out cashmere or like mixed cashmere, that's a great place to start. And I found this very pretty dark navy. Like, this is the actual color. When I go closer, it blurs out. And fit wise, I wanted like a contiguous sleeve English tailoring, like the set and sleeve construction that you get in a lot of store-bought sweaters. So it looks a little bit more polished, I would say. And because I do have struggles with raglan sweaters, as we can see, and not all. This one is great. But I think there are kind of difficult constructions for my body type and the fit I like. And dropped shoulder always looks a little bit more relaxed. So I wanted a contiguous sleeve construction. And actually, I met Gage for the poppy tee with this. And that's a t-shirt construction, but I just made it long sleeve. Like, you can actually really see where the I blocked the upper part and haven't blocked the lower part, so there's a line, I would say. And I decreased just for the sleeves every 4 centimeters. And as you can see, like, I still have the ribbing for the second sleeves on my needles and the upper part on my barber cords, because I ran out of yarn. And that's what I meant. You really need to know your yarn, because now I need to extra order like 200 grams of that yarn, even though I think I only need 100 grams. but I will find a purpose for that rest of that yarn. But yeah, it's really frustrating because I think this is like maybe the most expensive yarn that they have. So it's like a merino cashmere mix. It is, I think, 50% or 60% cashmere and 40% merino. I will put it on the screen in the description box. And it gets like, I mean, it's soft before blocking, but with blocking it just gets like butter. It's like amazing, and I just love that construction. I actually will put it on now, the half finished project. Every time I film a podcast episode, I throw everything on the floor, and even though I clean before podcasting or tidy up, it always just looks like a total mess when I film it. So let me take a straighter. So I'm wearing a t-shirt underneath, which was the intended look, and that's how it's looking. And like just the fit of the shoulder, it's just amazing. I don't know, you can see that shoulder detail. And yeah, so right now, I mean, it covers the beginning of my high-waisted pants, but it's like I want it to be until here. So I would say there's at least 5 centimeters of ribbing and 5 centimeters of the stockinette body left to knit. But I just love this construction, and I think it looks so sleek, and the feeling is just amazing. The only thing I noticed when knitting on it, everything is getting stuck to this fabric, so I hope it disappears after a while. But it's so soft, it looks so nice, it's so well fitting. It still has positive ease, so I can wear t-shirts underneath, but it is just a little bit of a nicer sweater, and you can pair it with nicer pants and maybe some nice jewelry. And yeah, it's amazing. If you need information how to make the sleeve decreases, because the poppy tee is a short sleeve t-shirt, I left them on my Ravelry page, but I think a lot of other people already had that idea before me, so there are other Ravelry notes for a long sleeved poppy tee. And yeah, I just love this sweater, but as I said, I have to order more yarn. And actually this yarn was the first time I enjoyed really knitting on metal needles, because it is like a very dry merino feeling, like similar to Sunday or knitting for Olive Merino, which I really enjoy. So it was knit very fast on metal needles, and yeah, so I bought myself the metal needles, and I'm also knitting the sleeves on small circular metal needles. These are the Adi red lace needles, I don't know. So yeah, that's that. Oh yeah, I'm knitting this on 3.5 millimeter needles, and I think I got it like spooled twice, like with 2 plies. They don't ply it, they only spool it, so the threads are not intertwined, but they lie next to each other as you would hold 2 different strands of yarn. But I love this construction just knitting wise. It's so much fun. I did the same construction for the Lyon chunky sweater I knitted last year for a friend, because you only knit like a very small back panel, and then you start already the left and right shoulders, and then you already join in around. And what I really like in comparison to other contiguous sleeve, set in sleeve English tailoring patterns is that you start the shoulder already knitting in the round with the yoke, or like the upper body, and you don't have to pick up and do German short rows in the aftermath. It is just like when you split for sleeves and body under the arm, you have the sleeve cup already as live stitches on your needles or a barber cord or something, and you can just like thread your needle through and pick up under the arm, similar to a circular yoke or a raglan construction. But since this starts way wider on your shoulder point in comparison to a raglan construction, which starts closer to your collarbone, and you knit straight and then start like small raglan increases from around here, it just doesn't give you that deep yoke that goes in this diagonal line until your armhole to create like that positive ease, and which just fits way better with the kind of fit I want for my sweaters. So this pattern really made me fall in love all over again with PetiteKnit. I have a little bit mixed feelings about her, but this is such a great pattern, especially because also she has like very clear instructions, and after each section, each increase section, she has put up like all the stitch numbers for every section of the sweater, so you don't get confused or make mistakes. It's really great. I will just keep that on. This actually made me knit another version of this. I actually wanted to try out a different kind of sweater, thought more of a dropped shoulder, but I couldn't really find a pattern with the gauge I had. And this is also a Wollfabrik yarn, but it's a very different composition. It is 90%, I think, merino or wool, and 10% nylon, so close to a sock yarn, I would say. And it has a really tiny halo, but generally like it does feel a little bit different than your regular merino that you can buy in a store. And also it's very thinly threaded, so I had to get it spooled up to a 6-ply to be able to knit it on a 4-ish millimeter needle. I'm actually knitting this and also this on a 3.5 millimeter needle, which makes basically all my projects, all my sweater projects are on 3.5 millimeter needles, why I also needed to get these fixed ones because I was running out of needles. It's interesting because this gives very store-bought sweater vibes fabric, I guess, with the nylon, and I hope the nylon makes it a lot more durable. But I'm also interested how the 6 plies just lying next to each other will hold up, because obviously, for example, like for a sock knit, sock wool, you would want a high twist so it's more durable, and this obviously doesn't have any twist because the strands are not plied into each other or with each other. And so I think it's going to be interesting how the sweater is going to hold up, how the plies and the nylon will balance each other out. I made a lot of like gauge swatches with this. This is held with a silk mohair, and this is held on its own. And this is how far I already got. And I think you might be able to see it, but this is a bigger version because I wanted it a little bit between this and a dropped shoulder, so that like this seam does fall down a little bit, so it has a little bit more of an oversized look, I guess. So I cast on a bigger size than this one. I believe the size is on the screen because I am not sure about it, and the fabric that it creates is crazy. Like, I mean, you can see where I changed from like knitting flat into the round, but I think I never had such an even stitch picture, I guess. It looks like machine knit, and I guess that's due to the yarn. Like, I mean, I have very even knitting as well, but like, I guess it has a lot to do with the yarn, and I am just in love with this color. It's just so much fun. I mean, you can see a little bit of a theme, like green everywhere, and it's also a very beautiful color. Like, I don't know how well you can see it, but it is not a solid green. It is actually heathered with like more yellowish green and more bluish green, which I really like because it adds dimension to this. So yeah, really looking forward to having this in my wardrobe. The next thing I'm knitting on is my first pair of pressed flower socks, and you can see the navy love is great, and this is knit with one of the mini skeins from the Nervous Fiber Advent calendar from last year, and just a basic Schachmeier 4-ply navy yarn, and I'm loving this. It is a lot of fun. As you can see, I'm only knitting the cuff, it's not the cuff, the leg of the sock in the stitch pattern, and the rest is just basic one color stockinette because I don't have enough yarn to do the whole sock in mosaic knitting. But I'm really enjoying it. It's really fun. It's a slow knit, but it's great because I have to go back and forth between places for the doctor's appointment at the moment a lot, and this is a great traveling knit. It's a lot of fun, and just seeing how the flowers develop and seeing the color changes, it's very, very pretty, and I guess it's a great way to show off your mini skeins or your color changing variegated sock yarns. That's that. I have a lot of other whips lying around which are kind of paused, or I don't know if I want to pursue with them or how I want to pursue with them. So I will talk at some other time about them because it's nearly an hour and I still have some things I want to talk about. So I ordered from Paisley or Parsley yarn, no, Parsley knits, Parsley something. I guess she's a very well-known North American indie dyer. I guess, yeah, she is North American. I thought she was American, like US American, but the things got sent out with Canada Post, so I was confused by that, but maybe that was just her preferred shipping method. And I ordered the Normal People colorway from the book club collection, so if you ordered that, don't want to see that, skip that. I will put a stamp in when I talk about the next yarn. And it looks like this. It wasn't what I expected. So the base I used is Salty Sock, so it's 100% extra fine merino wool, and what drew me to that is it is like, I think, more sustainable yarn or sustainable merino. There was no details more than that, how that is defined by sustainable, but yeah, and it is 437 yards per 100 grams, so it like a fingering sock weight, but this doesn't have any nylon or something. I actually wanted to have like the mini and full skein sock set, but that was sold out already. And so this is like a pistachio pale green, I would say, and this has like this pistachio green in it as well, but also like some variations of beige and like cream color, and yeah, some warmer tones as well. If you've been here for a while, you know these aren't my colors. Like, I really like saturated greens like this, but this is too pale for my coloring, which is a little bit sad because I thought at least the variegated yarn would be maybe a light color with dark speckles or something, but it is not. Nonetheless, these are beautiful colors, and I am planning to make the Marie pillow by PetiteKnit for a friend because I think, first of all, it fits very well to her interior, and also she's a huge Normal People or Sally Rooney fan as well, so I think she will appreciate that, and I think this would be a great combination for that. I don't even know how that kind of stitch pattern is called, I forgot it, but like you have like that solid main color, and then you have like the background color is this variegated yarn. The only thing is I need to hold them double, which I think will blur out a little bit the very soft fade of the variegated yarn, which is a little bit sad, but I think I mean I will swatch, but I could imagine this will look great. I also purchased yarn for the Maggie cardigan, which is in the works by PetiteKnit. Before she posted about it the first time, I was considering modifying the poppy tee on myself to make it a cardigan version, because I wanted, like I mentioned it, I want a red cardigan, and I really wanted a cardigan with this kind of construction, and it was really hard to find a crew neck cardigan with the fit, the gauge, and the construction. Like, basically I couldn't find it, and I'm very glad that PetiteKnit is doing the work for me and is publishing hopefully soon the Maggie cardigan, and I will just make it long sleeve. So I was looking for that perfect red for weeks, and I was like, I had so many tabs open, but I realized like especially red looks very different online than in real life, so it's really hard to tell if it's that perfect red. And I didn't want to have like that orangey red, because that's just, or if it's too poppy or too bright, it wouldn't suit my complexion. And if it's like but I also didn't want to have it red. So a lot of reds have like the darker, if they are if they dyed on a darker base, they have like a heathered look. I didn't want that. And I also didn't want like a burgundy red. So I was going back and forth and back and forth. And then at Wollfabrik I found this, like kind of in a sale section, this mohair, but I think it's a mix of polyamide and mohair and something else. I will put the composition on the screen, I'm not sure. And I was like, it was so cheap. I think I paid like 13 euros for it, so I was like, I'm just gonna put it in my cart. That's how most of the things landed there, except from this. Yeah, and this is like a very true Christmassy red, and I thought like, if I use it for the Maggie cardigan or not, it's a really cool red color, and I will just try it out. And then I considered like, with what can I pair it? And at some point I was like, I can't be bothered with this anymore. And I also realized like the red hat, which I have in Sandnes Garn Sunday in deep red basically, I wear it so much, and I love that hat on me. I love that color on me, and I was like, why do I make my life so complicated? And why don't I just buy that yarn again? I do love the color. I do love Sunday by Sandnes Garn, so we don't always have to go out of our way. I think I am typically, like, if I find something that works for me, yarn-wise, pattern-wise, construction-wise, I will reuse that yarn and that pattern as many times, because I do like to experiment and try new things, especially yarns, but like, if you had a good experience, why not reuse something? It's like there is no yarn policy that you always have to find a new yarn for every project you make. So I got the yarn. So yeah, it's Sunday by Sandnes Garn in the color, I should have known this by now, 4236 or deep red in Norwegian. And these are not a perfect color match, but even though I love this like deeper red, I think held with this together it will make the perfect red, and I'm very much looking forward when she publishes the pattern to cast this on and finally also have a bright red cardigan in my collection. So yes, that's one thing I'm looking forward to. Also, I finished the sleeves of my peacock tee. Otherwise, I am also very undecisive what else I'm going to cast on. I mean, I still have 2 sweaters on my needles, so which I need to finish. But something else very exciting happened. My sister is pregnant and she's expecting her first baby in October, which is very exciting. I am going to be an aunt, and yeah, it's also the first baby in our family, in my whole social friend circle, so yeah, crazy. And I'm very much looking forward to knitting a whole wardrobe for that baby. Yes, like a whole wardrobe. I got a little bit crazy, I would say, and calculated from the birth date or due date, what size in what season the baby is going to be for the first 2 years, so I can like organize and plan the knits I want to make for this baby. I don't know the gender yet, but my sister said like, oh, she's very much into the whole pastel-y color theme, so basically most of these colors are gender neutral anyways, and if it's going to be girl and she wants something pink or so, I can still knit that in the following months. But I basically went through my whole stash and collected all the yarns which are baby suitable. Some are like full skeins and some are just scraps, and there's a wild mix. Some things like this is, for example, alpaca I won't use for the first year, but others like merino, superwash, yeah, I'm going to knit the shit for this baby, like no, the shit out of this baby basically. Yeah, and I'm really happy to use all of like these scraps or worn skeins or colors that I would never wear in my life. And I'm also looking forward to making toys. So maybe I will do a video about like everything I am going to knit my niece or nephew. Yeah, so very happy and excited about that. And what else? I also ordered something very fancy, because first of all I ordered myself a handbag, which is very untypical me because I'm more of a backpack person or a tote bag person, but I got really annoyed with the knitting situation in trains and public transport. Yeah, like I said, I'm going back and forth a lot at the moment, and obviously I knit when I'm traveling, and with a backpack it's often annoying because yeah, you have it on your back, so you can't knit when you're like waiting on your train or something, knit out of your backpack basically. And with tote bags, they can't stand on their own, and I love my PetiteKnit bag, but first of all it's a very light color, so I wouldn't put that down on the floor on a train station or even in a train most of the time. And second of all, it doesn't have any long strands to wear it, so you always have to carry it like that. And it doesn't fit like my other stuff, like my water bottle, my iPad with my knitting patterns, my purse, stuff like that. And I just wanted something that I could put everything in for just going from one place to another, and everything else is in my luggage. So I got this bag from Etsy in Harris Tweed. I think it's handmade. I'm not sure. I will link the maker of this. And yeah, it has like a phone pocket and a little bit a small one with a zipper. And generally what I really like it has like a wider standing point in comparison to a tote bag, so I can just put it down and knit from it, and that's great for me. So, but the thing is, like with carrying this kind of personal handbag with me, I realized like the way my needles and all my knitting accessories are stored is also not very effective. And I was considering getting a C-knit case for some times, because I have the C-knit mini needles, and in all the other cases I could find from like in Leather, from Mood or other brands, they always don't have like things to put small needles in. They only have them for the bigger needles. And I also am very worried about losing my needles and the very like the see-through cables from CNET, I mean, which add up to be all very expensive, and I am not looking forward to ordering that again for a lot of money. So I finally purchased myself a CNET case. I will link the CNET case down below, and it looks like that. And then you can throw this up, and you can see like I have like my mini circular needles up there, also like some smaller accessories like what is it, like stitch markers, and I have like my longer needles down here, and it also fits my shorter DPNs, which is great. And I have like a mixture of CNET needles, Knit Pro needles, yeah, only Knit Pro and CNET, these are the two sets. I have some scissors, crochet hooks, and also some other stitch markers in here. And since you overlap or have an overlap like that, I feel like they're very protected, and the chances of them falling out, if this wouldn't be here, aren't much more reduced. And you have like a, what is this? Klettverschluss. I don't know the English word for that. But you can store all your cables in here, or fixed circulars. And actually I was really surprised by the compact size of this. Like this is not, like this is the size of an envelope, I would say, but it's also not very thick. And I think a lot of like other needle cases take a lot of space, and this is like a very secured but compact and dense way to store my needles, and they fit like only like the larger DPNs I have. They don't fit in here because they are too long, but I rarely use them, and then I can just carry them in an extra bag. But this fits my handbag very well. The last thing I purchased is this. It's a knitting pillow, and it just looks like a nursing pillow. I think you could probably get a nursing pillow as well. I don't know if they're cheaper. This is actually very expensive. I got it on sale, but still it was like 60 euros, which I don't know. I don't think you need something like that, but it doesn't hurt. I got this from Hobby because they were like the only place that offered something like that. I think probably Amazon or yeah, a regular nursing pillow would do it as well. But they had like really good reviews because you can take off the cover here like this. I mean, this is not the most beautiful cover, and I would consider sewing a different cover for this, but you can wash the cover, and you can also wash the inside, and if you put it in the tumble dryer it would fill up again, because obviously you flatten it with using. And if you haven't seen something like that, you basically wear it like around your waist, and then you rest your elbows on here, and then you can just knit from it. And because since I am knitting so much at the moment, like sometimes 8 to 10 hours a day, especially with the storm sweater, I got a little bit stressed at the end, and actually knitting that pattern hurt a little bit my shoulder. I don't get wrist pain, but I get pain in my right shoulder, and I tried resting my right elbow on a pillow and it helped a lot. So I thought like this is actually great. Another thing which is great, if you have a very heavyweight garment, you can just put it onto here and it doesn't drag your knitting down, which also helps. And they have different sizes, small, medium and large. I guess it depends on your dimensions. Funnily enough, I needed a medium. They only offered small and large. I ordered a large and I got a medium. Yeah, I don't know. It also comes with a small bag, so if you would take it on holiday or something, it would be great. but I have it only lying on my couch. But yeah, it is great for my bag and for my knitting. And if you knit for several hours a day, I would say I would consider investing in something like this. But if you don't knit that much every day, I don't think you need something like that. You could also just use a regular pillow, or you don't get any pains at all. But yeah, that was my last big purchase. And I mean, I purchased a lot of other things as well, but I think this is already very, oh, I'm sorry, you're swinging, a very heavy acquisition section. So I will leave it by that and talk about like all the other counts when I will start knitting with them. And yes, I think that's all. I hope you are enjoying spring and enjoying your knitting. Let me know if you're also planning on maybe knitting a red cardigan, because I got a lot of responses on Instagram and I've seen also a lot of red cardigans, especially with the was it like My Favorite Things Knitwear who put out that red saddle shoulder cardigan. So, or if you have any baby knit tips. As far as I know, no alpaca in the first year, and neck openings to get the baby head through, and sweaters and cardigans are better than like bottoms or overalls, because you can just put them over like cotton overall or something. So there's going to be baby knits sprinkled here and there, but still I'm going to mainly knit for myself, no worries. Grown-up knits are still going to be the main thing on this channel. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this and I see you next time. Bye bye!